It is 5 o'clock somewhere, and you've tuned into Season 3, Episode 10 of BRC. For those of you who'd like to watch this episode, I highly recommend it. You can view Season 3 on our website, YouTube, Spotify, whiskeynetwork.net, and Zencaster. I'm Kerry Moynahan, and in today's Tales from the Still, I speak with Aidan Mehigan about Natterjack Irish Whiskey. Then later in the show, Chef Louise Leonard joins me for a dram, and we talk about the other white meat. So kick up your shoes, pour yourself a dram, and join me for this episode of Barrel Room Chronicles. Last season on Barrel Room Chronicles, I embarked on an amazing journey through Ireland, from Dingle to Belfast and nearly everything in between. Now I'm going to do it all over again. But this time, you're invited. That's right, join me this September for a trip of a lifetime through the rich tapestry of Irish whiskey culture. We'll visit iconic locations such as the Titanic Experience and the new Titanic Distillery, and tour through the lush Irish landscapes and visit filming locations from the hit TV series Game of Thrones. We'll also visit historic sites, including cathedrals, jails, castles, and more. Plus, we'll get to distill our very own batch of Clonakilty gin. To find out more or to book now, visit barrelroomchronicles.com and click on the Brock Tours photo. Well, hello, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is you are watching the show today. Welcome to Barrel Room Chronicles. Today's guest is none other than Aidan Mehigan from Natterjack Irish Whiskey. And we're going to talk about this Natterjack, which is very exciting because it's all about the toad. So we'll get into why there's a toad, what the toad represents, and all of that. But first, Aidan, welcome to the show. And tell me, what is your whiskey journey? When you were a wee little lad, did you ever think that you would be owning a whiskey company with a toad as its mascot?
Yeah, but listen, first off, thank you for having me. A great question. No, I didn't. I actually started the business because I figured I loved whiskey, but Irish whiskey had missed me. I knew my favorite bourbon. I didn't know my favorite Irish whiskey. And I was unfulfilled in a career. And I was like, if I have this passion for food and wine and spirits and my own home spirit has missed me, I must have missed a load of people. Like it must have been, it must be doing something that is maybe missing the spot. Because look, I had a disposable income and I like going out. So if Irish whiskey missed me, it must have missed loads of people. But, and I think this is key. I got into drinking because drinking's great fun, right? I didn't get into drinking because it's an intellectual exercise or anything like that. I got into it because it's really great to share with people, to share an experience with people. The early moments of a night out are some of the best moments you'll ever have. Don't get me wrong, there's some great moments at the end and in the middle. But those early stages when all the possibilities lie out in front of you. And I thought Irish whiskey could have something in that space, and it didn't. And I was like, right, let's go and do that. So I got a friend of mine to draw the Natterjack toad, a very talented artist called Kelvin Mann, who's based in Dublin. And I'd actually asked him to draw a toad, and he said, there's an Irish one. I'll draw you a Natterjack toad. And I was like, do it. So he drew the toad, and Natterjack was born. And then I went on this kind of...
Why did you think toad? What was toad? Why toad?
I like the cadence of four toed black. And I thought that would be, I wanted a kind of a single syllabled animal, number and color all included. And so I looked at different types, like two fish blue. There was some dreadful ones like four brown bear, and there was something to do with a seal, but like it was, so it wasn't good. But I was like, when he said that there was this toad in Natterjack, I was like, Natterjack's an amazing name. And then it turns out, right, while Kelvin's off sketching that, I did a lot of work on the Natterjack toad, and I went down to where it lives in Western Ireland in a place called Castle Gregory. And it turns out it has some intriguing similarities to Irish whiskey, right? Its gestation period from a toadlet to a toad is 3 years. Irish whiskey has to be in barrel for 3 years, tick, right? Secondly, it has a mating call that can be heard 2 kilometers away, like some whiskey drinkers, and it's nocturnal like most whiskey drinkers. So it's like, this is our animal. But then, right, then it turned like, because now we're in startup phase, right? And it's like, okay, well, what else about this animal speaks to us? And it turns out that the Natterjack toad is a very Irish toad, right? It can't hop, it walks. It can't swim, it drowns. It does things its own way to survive. And that kind of made me think this has to be our spirit animal. So Kelvin drew the toad, and then we had this 6 foot toad made for launch. And when we put it in the street, people love toads. And this was news to us, right? People absolutely love toads. So we put this 6 foot toad in the middle of Dublin, ahead of the day before launch, and people were just coming up and kissing it. And that toad is with us in Texas now. And wherever we put it out, people interact with it. And it it always spoke to me as the harder thing to do, Kerry, than put on the front an Irish horse. Like, because Ireland's famous for our horse industry is a global leader, right? So a
Right.
proud Irish horse would have been, this is a regal bottle of whiskey. But like, that's not much crack, right? I wanted it to be something that people look at and they go, that makes me want to have fun. And I think that's what we've achieved. So that's kind of the journey how we got there.
I feel like it's a very intriguing label, and it's a very intriguing toad. On the cast strength, you've got the really great like metal toad, which really, and I think this bottle looks very sophisticated, especially with the toad. And you know what? When I first saw Natterjack and there's a toad, I'm like, toad, that's interesting. So I was drawn in. I said, I got to get this guy on. I got to find out about the toad. So that is a great toad story. I love it. So you were in Dublin. Now, the 6 foot toad, you brought it to Texas. And I mean, how did you ship this giant toad?
It came with, so I have a 6 year old, 4 year old, and a 1.5 year old, and Faye, my lovely wife, and we've got a Great Dane, and we came kit and caboodle 1 year ago to Texas to push Natterjack in America. You like the from a business perspective, it's hard to build a small brand making phone calls from Dublin, because phone calls are the easiest things to duck in the world. But the head of Total Wine or the head of Specs in Texas can't ignore me when I'm knocking on his door in downtown Dallas, right? And
Right,
so
right.
if we're going to build this by hand, if we're going to really live the story of our brand, which is adventure and having the life you want, you've got to go and get it. You can't expect a phone call to open up the largest, most complex spirits market in the world for you. And so I,
What, you mean the three-tier system is not easy to navigate? I've never heard that before.
yes, it's harder from Dublin, right? So,
Yeah.
so like we have this incredible investor team behind us, and they were like, "You got to get out here and sell." And I was like, "No problem." And they looked at me a bit funny, but it was part of the deal. They were like, "Have you told your wife you're moving to America?" And I was like, "Leave that with me, right?" So I go in and I said, "Faye, the deal's going to get done. We're refinancing. This is the best news we've ever had. Do you want to move to New York or Chicago?" They said neither, and I was like, "Uh oh."
Uh-oh.
We're in a bit of trouble here because I've told them we're moving. And she's like, look, I'm not saying not the States. I'm just saying give me outdoor spaces, give me sunshine, and give me cowboys. That's actually what she said. She now changed it and said, give me outdoor spaces, sunshine, and horses. But I remember, because I was like,
She
cowboys,
said
what the fuck?
cowboys.
Yeah. So I said, look, we got distribution in Texas. What do you reckon? And she's like, done. And this is no joke, right? That was October 2022. The week after, my mum came over, looked after the kids, and Faye and I flew to Austin and found a house. I looked at a couple of schools, flew home, got the kids, and came out. So, and that
Wow.
was kind of our journey to
Now,
living here. But
but the 6 foot toad, is he like inflatable, or like how did
oh
you
no, he's made of
package him?
fiberglass. I'll send you a picture. But he came over in the container with our lives possessions. So we had
Wow.
like our couch, say, a couple of chairs, a bed, and this sort of jazz. So that all came over in a container. And
Wow.
actually, madness of it is we shipped it before we got our visas. And
Ooh.
someone out, he's like, "What are you going to do if you don't get your visa?" It's like, well, look, this business has been about betting big and hopefully winning big. So that was a big gamble.
Yeah. Yeah. Visas are not easy. I do a lot of uh, production work with international stuff, and I've dealt with visa people from all over the world, and some places are easy, some places are not easy, and some places you just have to say, I think we're going to fly under the radar for a bit. So,
Exactly. Yeah. No,
yeah.
it turned out the story worked from a visa perspective for us, but it was our stuff was gone. So like, what are we going to do?
So did you
Yeah.
sell your home in Ireland, or did you keep it and rent it out, or?
No, it's all gone. We sold up everything back. So we during COVID, as everyone knows, business became hard for everyone, but especially for a very young brand. And so we ended up in really tight financial spot in the kind of mid 21. So at that stage, we moved out of our house, sold our car, sold any belongings that had anything, and then we moved for a while to an Airbnb in a place called Knockanana in County Wicklow, which is
Okay.
the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful,
And then
County
we
Wicklow.
moved,
Love it.
and yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And then we moved back in with Faye's parents in Suffolk for a little while we tried to steady the ship and tried to refinance the business. And that was it wasn't a fun 18 months. It was a bloody hard 18 months, but we got out the other side of it and hence why we were just like, right, let's go. Everything in a container, let's
Okay.
do it.
Nice. Okay. So when did you actually launch the product originally? Was it during COVID,
So
before COVID?
yeah, February 2019 was our launch date in Dublin.
Okay.
And now I'd been thinking about the business for a long time at that stage, and it had taken us a while to raise the capital to start the business and buy the requisite stock. But what that time period did was it gave me a great Rolodex of people who were interested in this frog whiskey, right? Toad whiskey, whatever you want to call it. And so we launched in February 2019. And then by the end of 2019, right, we were in 6 global markets and 4 US states, right? And this was amazing, right? We were
Yeah.
way ahead of where we thought we were going to be. And I did this trip. I did a 10-day trip where I went to Washington State, Seattle, and then I went to Chicago. I went to Manchester, New Hampshire, New York, and Florida, right? Down to Miami. And I met distributors and really key is I met mixologists, bartenders, and off-premise owners.
Right.
And I realized on that trip that the story worked here. There's a great championing of entrepreneurialism in America that isn't in every country, right? When people meet the owners of businesses, their eyes light up. Even hearing your story of what you guys have built in the 5 minutes before we came on today, it's amazing to talk to people who've been through it, right? And it's just it's so championed here in the States that I took it as a massive breath of fresh air. And that was when I first went back to Faye and I was like, we're going to the States. And she's like, okay. And then, of course, COVID hit. So we were not going anywhere for 2 years. So, so that was kind of the thought process. But that was an amazing first year in 2019. And then just followed up by the difficulty everyone went through. Our story is not that different to loads of businesses.
Well, the fact that you made it to the other side is, a lot of people didn't. So congratulations on that. So now I'm assuming, since it's such a young company, that right now you have sourced whiskey, but do you age it specially, or it's just all sourced right now in your work? And do you have a distillery, and where is it if you do?
We had plans and planning permission for a distillery pre-COVID. We lost that site as a result of no one willing to loan on tourist attractions in the year or two after COVID.
Right.
I dearly would love a distillery in Ireland, and that's still in the plans, although we don't have one at the moment. We source from Great Northern Distillery in Dundalk.
Okay.
That's
right.
No secret. It's the best. They've done an incredible job. But just to take a little bit of a step back in 2017, when I really wanted to do this project, I realized, largely because a friend of mine sent me a text and said, you don't know how to make whiskey, what are you doing? I realized I needed to go on a whiskey course. So I went to the American Distillers Institute craft distilling course, and I went to do a bourbon course because, as I said to you at the start, I had a favorite bourbon, I didn't have a favorite Irish. And I wanted to try and marry those two flavor profiles. So I went to a bourbon making course rather than go to an Irish whiskey making course. I was like, let's try and do things differently, which has always been in the DNA of the company.
Right.
So I went to Louisville, Kentucky, a long way from home. And Jordan Vai, who at the time was the master distiller in Breckenridge, he was teaching the course. And I did the first 2 days of the course. And after I came out the second day, Jordan was in the car park looking off wistfully into the distance. I said, look, I'm on your course. Is everything okay? He's like, everything's great. Our distillery just got an investment. And I was like, can I buy you a drink to celebrate? Like, this is my in to the American whiskey society, right? He's clearly connected up the wazoo. And I'm like, okay, so this is it. So we spent a night, and look, we had a rake load of drinks. We had a great time. His wife, Maya, who they're still great friends of ours and still shareholders in the business, but they were like, what do you need? And I said, I need to learn how to make whiskey. And Jordan said, well, why don't you come to Breckenridge? I think he meant for a few days. So I went and I stayed for a month with them. Pretty sure at
Wow.
the end they're like, yeah, you need to get out. So, but I worked double shifts every day. I got to learn all of the aspects, and it's a big distillery now, Breckenridge. Back then it was a good bit smaller, but it was like everything from the handling of the grain. I'll tell you the one thing that took me ages to work out was what it meant in the whiskey making process, because I'd done this course where they talked about pitching yeast, and I was
Oh yeah.
like, in the course I was like, oh, I'm writing it down. I'm like, Google, but you can't Google. Like
You
back then I
can't
was
Google
Googling.
Pictionese.
No. So I get there and I'm like day 4 and Matt, this guy who's was the distiller there at the time. I was like, what's this thing about pitching the yeast? And he's like throwing it in. I was like, okay, right. So it's actually just throwing in the yeast at a
Yeah.
given temperature. You pitch the yeast. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
Well, it's
right.
like you
Okay.
said crack earlier, and I know what that means, but
Yeah.
most people don't. Like when I was doing my Irish tour last year, like everybody said it at least once, and finally I'm like, what does this mean? Because crack to us is drugs. So I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you
Crack and
guys
Ireland is
talking
quite
about?
different. Yeah. Yeah, and so that's it, isn't it? It's that lost in translation between two people who speak perfect English, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, it was a they're
When you
funny one. But
said on premise or off premise, we don't call anything that. I don't like that's not and like off license, like no, it's a liquor store. Like
yeah,
why does license have anything to do with it? You know?
yeah. I could never work that either out either, because in Ireland, an off license needs a license. Like it doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, but so then I solidified my relationship with Jordan. As I say, like for Thanksgiving this year, we were with his family in San Antonio, and Jordan does all of our blending, and he does all like he's just a great mate, and he's been a
So
great part of the business.
so do you ship him samples to America and then he blends it and then sends the notes back to Great Northern?
Well, no. So what happens is we ship him samples as the whiskey is maturing, but then Jordan is there for every blending session where we're actually blending
Oh,
whiskey.
at Great Northern.
So, yeah. So he comes
Okay.
across and we spend a couple of days. It was actually one of the things that during my time at Breckenridge that I kind of worked out about the industry. It was a case of you know 15% to this and 20% to that. Now that is the case. However, when you're blending and when you're working with your new make spirit and then also your aged products, and you're getting your ABVs right and your proofing, it's very much olfactory. Now you know this, but it's like he's standing there and he's like, I'm tasting this and we need to replicate it. Therefore, we need to do this because the alcohols are too high. There's too much mid palate going on, and that's the level. Like I do it with him, and it's great fun. But he's like, he says to me, he's like, what is it that you're trying to do here? And I'm like, I want it to be longer. I want it to be more powerful in the mid palate. It's really burning me on the front palate and that sort of stuff. And then he then plays with the blend to bring that around. And he's a
That's
genius. Like
great.
there's no way around it. Yeah.
So how many blending sessions do you have per year and how long are they?
3 a year. And there's kind of 2 days out at our bottling plant, which is just around the corner from Great Northern.
Okay. Great.
And then we obviously ship them samples, and so with winning, which we can get into cast strength in a bit, but that was a really incredible day of blending when that was kind of came into view. When that one came into view, it was really amazing. So yeah.
So when was the first? I'm assuming this one was first.
Yeah,
No?
blend one.
Okay.
That was
It says blend one, so yes, that would be first. So blend one, if you guys at home can see that. So when was this made, and when was it launched in Dublin, and when was it launched in America, or was it at the same time?
it was blended and finished in Virgin Oak in 2018, and so we released it Feb 2019, and
Okay.
it landed in the US November 2019.
Okay, great.
So
And are
to
you guys
coincide
in California? Because I haven't seen you anywhere. Are you in
We are in
California yet?
one shop in California. It's in San Francisco.
Okay.
There's a shop in San Francisco where we are, but it's look, it's a geography thing, right? We're building out the team. We don't have nationwide distribution at the moment. We're in 16 states, but one of those states is California. But it's very hard to put boots in the ground all the way across a country the size of the US. So we're getting there.
Right, for sure. All right, well, I think it's time that we taste these. As you can see, I've already started. And
Me
then I don't
too.
know if you've seen the show, but on almost every one of season 1, and we had her on a handful on season 2. But Chef Louise Leonard, who won season 2 of The Taste, comes in and does a pairing and or tasting, or uses the liquid in a recipe. And
Okay,
we already broke into this, and so
amazing.
we're ready for that. But I'm not going to tell you what it is, so that way you have to watch and see. And she'll be up after you today.
No,
So
I'm looking forward to
I'm
it.
going to go
Yeah.
ahead and give myself a little pour. And I have 2 glasses here. I have, the regular Glencairn that everybody uses for the nosing, but also my favorite glass is the Irish Tua glass. Have you seen the
I
Irish
do.
Tua
I know
glass?
them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you need to get your brand on those, and you need to put them in some gift boxes. Rosie's great. She's the creator of this, and for those at home who haven't watched the episode on this, it also sits sideways as a decanter, and the base is based off of Skilling Michael. Like, if you look at it, it's Skilling Michael,
They've
which
done a
is an
really
island
great
off
job.
of Dingle, the coast of Kerry. Yeah, so that I'm going to save for the cast strength. So I'm using the Glencairn for the first. All right, so tell me about this one.
So it's 20% malt, it's 80% corn. It's finished for a year in virgin oak. Now that virgin oak is char number 4. We source those from Segma Moreau in Napa, and the reason for the char number 4 is to really, in that year that it's in virgin oak, we didn't want to crush the Irish, because virgin oak is very powerful, right? So you don't want to crush the malt. You don't want to crush the some of the higher notes of the grain. We really wanted to extract lots of the color, extract lots of the vanilla, lots of the oak, lots of the citrus for me. And really, it makes it so much smoother than what a sherry cask or a sherry finish or a Pedro Jimenez. But it leans into that American flavor profile. It's not an Irish
It
bourbon,
does.
but it is a stepping stone for me from a gateway drug, if you will, Kerry, from
Yes, no, that's good.
from Irish to bourbon or bourbon to Irish.
I agree with that, because there's a lot of people, especially Americans, since Irish whiskey disappeared basically for 100 years. And the only thing they knew about Irish whiskey was Jameson, Bushmills, or usually that was it. Maybe Middleton sometimes. But now, as everyone should know who watches the show, business is booming in Ireland, and there's craft blenders and makers and distilleries throughout the whole country. Well, throughout the whole island, I should say, because it's 2 countries. But and I, for one, I'm 30% Irish. You might have noticed by my name. So, I like to connect to my Irish heritage. And when I first started with whiskey, I thought Jameson, um, and I started on bourbons, but then I went up to scotches, and then I was like, okay, well, let's try Irish again. And then I started tasting the newer stuff, and I really like it. And I think this is a good gateway between the two, because it does have some characteristics of the virgin oak with the char, but it also has the same. So it's a little bite there, but it still has the smoothness of an Irish whiskey, and I really like
Mm.
it. Good job.
And thank you. But even on the first sip, for me, there's no burn, right? And
No,
so quite often when I'm doing tastings, and I do lots of tastings and shows around the country, and it's it's almost disarming when you taste Natterjack. It's like you expect to have, because when you do tasting courses and stuff, they say, right, well, the first taste really prepares your body. Then now have a smell. Then, and the second taste is really where the flavor comes through. But for me, with Natterjack, because of what Jordan did in smoothing off what he calls rounding off the edges, it's amazingly approachable from the first sip. And I have an old friend of mine. He's since died, but he had a great line about whiskey like this, and it's like, it's great drinking whiskey. Like, it's, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's really
Well,
good. It
I told
disappears.
Louise, I said, I gotta put this down because it is so easy to drink. We could finish the bottle off and then not even notice that we were, having a problem until the bottle
right?
was empty. So yeah,
But
no, it's very, very drinkable.
you said about your Irish heritage. So Kerry is where the Natterjack toad is from. It's from
Oh,
Glen
good.
Bay in Kerry. And Castle Gregory and Glen Bay are the two places, both of which are in County Kerry. So it's actually indigenous to Kerry. So
That's fantastic. So do you guys have a plant in Ireland, or you just work straight out of
straight
northern
out of Great
distillers?
Northern, no,
Okay.
we will do, but we don't at the moment. No, it's
Okay. And then
it's
did you, when you went through and said, okay, we're going to work with you guys, did you go through and pick things that they were already making and then decide which types of barrels you wanted to use for your mash bill? Or did you come up with your own mash bill and have them make it, and then now that's what they do for you?
no. So Jordan had a very clear idea of what the mash bill would be, and so it he he worked really hard with the distiller, a guy called Brian Kerr. Oh, not Brian Kerr, Brian Watts, a gentleman at Great Northern. He worked really hard with him to get them doing what they wanted. And now we've now got a supply contract where everything is distilled for us at Great Northern, and it's on a rolling 5-year basis. So
Oh, great.
as we've grown the business to the level it's at the moment, like we're in 13 global markets and 16 states. So, and I think this year we'll do a little north of 30,000 cases on the current trajectory, of which we've already done 25%, and it's not even the end of the month. So it's things are going well, and so part of the success of that is locking in your supply, and also making sure that things are being distilled for you, as opposed to, as you say, purchasing and then blending afterwards. So
Right.
that's what we've tried to really use a proxy distillery rather than just buying off the shelf, and that's been a kind of a transformational part of the business is owning
Right.
that side.
All right. I think it's time for the cast strength.
Cask strength. So cask strength. Now, one Irish whiskey of the year, 2024, in the
Oh,
Whiskey
nice.
Bible.
Wait, in
Uh,
2024, it's only 2024 right now.
yeah, so
Were they in Jan? They just did
2024
it?
Whiskey Bible. It's released before Christmas in 2023.
Okay.
So it's Irish Whiskey of the Year. Previous winners were Redbreast 12-year-old cask strength, Bushmills 30-year-old. Like it is unheard of for a company like us to win it, and so it's a testament to the work Jordan has done, and it's a testament to the work the team have done. And for me, the blend is slightly different, and will change each year. So, um, but for me, it's this drink is all about the mouthfeel. It's all the smoothness. It
Mm,
does drink like it's 63% ABV, and the reason it's 63% ABV, Kerry, is I wanted it to be really what's in the cask. Right, you can release a cask strength in inverted commas that is 55, and it will be cut a little bit, but in order to keep costs, volume, all that, like there's reasons it's still higher proof, but it's not true cask strength. This is
right.
true cask strength out of
It
the
feels like
barrel.
a true cast strength. It's got a nice hot note on the top, and the mouthfeel. You're right. It's like cream in your mouth. It's like a nice hot, spicy, delicious cream.
Yeah, and when we won the award, I was just kind of, I wasn't expecting the phone call. And it's like, look, we've got a frog in our bottle, right? It's like loads of people in the industry don't take us seriously, and that's fine. Like you can't say I got into this because drinking's great fun and then be upset if people don't take you seriously, right? That's just not,
Right.
those two things can't sit side by side. However, when we win this award, and we've won double golds, and the whiskey's really good, but this recognition was kind of like, oh, actually they're they're doing something right, right? And
Right.
it's not just a frog on a bottle to grab people's attention. What they're doing is because we wanted to produce something we could stand over.
So, what other competitions have you entered um, that you
San
got golds
Diego
for?
got double gold, IWC in Germany gold. What else do we? Then the 50 best, we got best Irish whiskey 2023.
Okay.
So it's 4 awards in the last kind of 4 or 5 months. So
Oh, wow, that's great.
yeah, it's been really good.
So, when do you think you'll have bottles on the shelves in Los Angeles?
So straight away, you can order through our website, and that'll be delivered to Los Angeles from the warehouse in California, because we have a warehouse for direct to consumer in California.
Okay.
I would hope to have full Californian distribution this year because a really strong state for us is Washington. We just got approached about opening Oregon. And then look, that's at that level, with California included, we should get boots on the ground in Western US. So
Right.
leave it with me. I'm working hard. And look, I spent a summer back in 1998 working in Huntington Beach.
Oh, nice.
Duke's on Huntington Beach on the pier there.
I've seen it. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I didn't work there. I worked cleaning toilets at an Irish bar up the road, but Duke's was the kind of the standout landmark there. One of my mates worked at the cinema. We stayed in a motel for the summer. It was amazing. It was an amazing time. So California has a real place in my heart.
Well, fantastic. I mean, I kind of wish that you guys would have moved here. We have land, and I think our weather is a little better than Texas, but not
It
this year.
is.
This year, I mean, right
We
now
didn't
it's
have
been very rainy.
distribution. We didn't have distribution. That would easy peasy. And I think there's a wildness to parts of California that I absolutely love. That kind of lush redwoods that you can kind of get lost in for
Yep.
for years, right? And actually, it's where Jordan and Maya live. They live on Mare Island in
Oh,
Vallejo.
Vallejo. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Vallejo.
where Jordan works at Savage and Cook at the moment. So
Oh,
we
nice.
would
My
have
sister
there.
lives not too far from there.
So we're releasing a whiskey called The Mistake, which is because we left the whiskey in barrel too long.
Yeah, well, I'd love to try the mistake. So right now you have these two expressions plus that. Is there any other expressions that you guys have out in the market?
No, that's it. We've got a couple of other size differences, like we've got cast strength in 500 ml for certain markets, and I think our Turkish distributor wants a 3 liter Natterjack. So is that a Jeroboam? I'm not sure, but either way, it's 3 liters. So, but that's going to be our core market, and the commercial reason for that is 99% of the whiskey market don't know who we are. So
Right.
I don't believe in growing your footprint until there's a commercial reason to.
Right.
You only cannibalize your own business. And so we need to do what we do well. We need to support in market, and we need to bring people along on the journey. And I think given the size of our team, 3 products is loads. So we'll stay
Yeah.
there.
What is the size of your team?
We've got 6 sales reps, of which 6 are in the US. Then we've got a head of global sales, Scotty Moran in Dublin, as chief operating officer in Dublin, director of marketing here in Vanessa lives in Virginia, and
Okay.
we've just hired a director of sales. So we're growing the team all the time.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you guys approached me because I'm very glad that I found out about the Natterjack Toad. One more thing before we conclude. Tell me about the name of the distillery. It's Girtinor? Girtinor? How do you say that?
So Girtinor is the Irish word for an old field, for a small field of gold, a Girtinor, and so Girt is a field, Girtin is a small field, and ore is gold. So small field of gold. But when I started this business, I moved into my parents' basement at 35 years of age. Something I would suggest everyone thinks long and hard about doing. Don't get me wrong, my parents are amazing, but you're 35, you're living in their basement. It's not good scenes. So I had to put a tax return together in year 1 around the business. So I called it Girtinor, and it kind of stuck. It then became a massive problem because we're Natterjack, right? And so now when I go to events and people are like, they put up on the board behind the stand, it's like Girtinor, and you're like, oh, so where's Natterjack? You're like, okay, this is confusing. So there were some teething elements in relation to that, but we've worked through it. So,
well, that's great. I love the meaning of the name. So you're the modern day leprechaun. I'm going to
there we
say,
go.
and you're going to find your
Go.
gold at the end of the rainbow. So
I'll take it.
I love it. It'll be in a big field. Small field. Big gold. Small field is where you will find
A
your
rainbow
pot of gold.
keeping us down there every day. Yeah.
And I mean, right now it's more amber, but gold, amber, close. It's very nice.
It is.
Well, that's fantastic. And where can we find you on your socials, and what's the website so people can order and have stuff shipped to them?
Socials Natterjack Irish Whiskey on Instagram, on Facebook, on all those places. TikTok, I don't think we do. I don't think they allow you to do advertising alcohol on there. So, and then
Probably not.
if people want to order it, they order it through www.natterjack.com. And people who are listening to this show can use my discount code, which is
Great.
Aidan Special, AIDAN SPECIAL. And you'll
Fantastic.
get a discount which will cover more than the shipping. So really appreciate your support. It's been great chatting to you, Kerry.
Great. Well, I will put that in the show notes and on our sponsor page so people can get the discount code and go link right to your website. That'd be fantastic.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out, and good luck with everything. And I hope to see you in Los Angeles stores real soon.
Definitely. Thank you, Kerry. Have a great day.
World of Wheezy is up next. Stay with us. The ladies will love the look, and the men will feel marvelous. Why? Because Manscaped.com has head-to-toe tools and formulations for every hairy man's body. The star of the show is the Lawnmower 5.0 below-the-waist trimmer. It's got wireless charging, it's waterproof, and thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, it's really smooth. Everything one needs to take care of everything below the waist is included in the Performance Package 5.0. The kit also includes the Crop Preserver deodorant and the Crop Reviver toner spray. Another popular item is the Weed Whacker hair trimmer. Gentlemen, keep your ears and nose hairs in check, and the women will love you for it. Whether you need grooming tools for your face or body, or just need the best in men's body care products, Manscaped.com has everything you need. Go to Manscaped.com and use code BARRELROOM to get 20% off your order today. All right, so today, Louise, we are going to talk about Natterjack Irish Whiskey. They have a toad as their mascot, which there's a whole interesting story behind it. This one is just their regular Irish whiskey, triple distilled, finished in a virgin American oak. It's 40% alcohol by volume, and it's blend number 1. I have not tasted this yet. You had some a little bit earlier, so you could figure out about what you wanted to create with it. But let's go ahead and get a little pour. Okay, so let's take a little sniff. Okay. Oh, yes. Definitely an Irish whiskey scent. You can tell that it's a triple distilled. It's very light.
This
and very
is
light on the
home
nose.
to me.
Oh, it's lovely.
Like, I don't necessarily drink as many single malts from Scotland very often. I don't.
We'll be changing that in the near future.
Yes, we will. I cannot wait. I'm just being very open with how I have consumed whiskey, which is why this is a fun adventure.
It is a fun adventure. Now let's consume this whiskey.
Classic.
It's classic, and it's light.
Delicious.
It's got that whole light balance, which I love about Irish whiskey because it's triple distilled. So you've got and you know what? For 40%, it doesn't even feel like that. Like it's
Okay, it feels like water, but water
feels like water, tastes like whiskey.
Exactly.
Which is so dangerous.
Exactly.
And then what would you do with this? Would you pair it with something, or would you cook with it?
Okay, I'm going to get cheeky here. I can't help myself. I know it's a toad, but I want to make frog's legs.
Oh boy.
Flambéed frog's legs. Okay, so
they are not going to be happy about this because the toad is a big deal.
Okay.
So, but make sure it's a frog, not a toad.
All I'm saying is I would like to make some sautéed frog's legs. All right? You dredge them.
Not this toad. Not this toad.
So here's the thing with frog's legs. When people say, oh, it tastes like chicken, like, oh, have you ever had alligator taste like chicken? Have you ever had this? It tastes like chicken.
Alligator does not taste like chicken.
Frog's legs 100% actually do taste like chicken.
Interesting.
I think it's white meat. It's lean. And
now let me ask, because I've never had frog legs. When they serve it, can you tell it's a frog leg, or do they like skin it and stuff and make it look like just some meat on the bone, or you have to?
No, it's generally the lower half. So when I think of frog's legs, I think of either a classic French preparation, or I think of a Asian, like Southeast Asian preparation, which I've had a handful of times too. So with this particular whiskey, I'm leaning more French, which is essentially you get some frog's legs. You can buy them frozen at a lot of supermarkets pretty much around the country. If you live in the South, if you live in Louisiana, of course, the deep South, like y'all know what to do with them. But if you live in a place where maybe you don't have an Asian market, where you can't find them frozen or you can't get them fresh, you might have to special order them. But for me, I'm going to just dredge them in a little bit of flour. I'm going to pan fry them, and I'm going to use this whiskey to flambe. After I pan fry them, I'm going to add some capers. I'm going to add some lemon, a whole bunch of dill, a whole bunch of cilantro, a whole bunch of chilies, a whole bunch of parsley, like all the aromatics and all of the just chilies and scallions and everything, but a lot of acid, and just add that to the pan and dump it over the top of them. And there you have it. I think that's, for me, with this whiskey would go like really, really well. I don't know. I think the Irish style of eating with, kind of just like the salt from the sea and everything, like frog legs are, they lend well to salty preparations, and this would be one of them. So,
but as long as we don't use the Natterjack toad, we're good. So don't use the Natterjack toad. How come do we not eat any other part of the frog? It's only the legs.
It's kind of the front all legs guts too, or just top.
But what about the front legs? They're just like
they're
this big.
There's nothing there. All of their muscle exists in their lower body. They're jumpers.
How many legs would one have to eat to actually be a full meal?
They're like, each frog leg is like, like a chicken wing.
That much meat? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I would like to try frog legs, and I really would only like to try them if you have made it. Definitely do not want to use the Natterjack toad, of course. But this is an amazing Irish whiskey. I really like it. And I'm so glad that I've been able to try that with you. So Solange.
Cheers.
Until next time on World of Wheezy, we will talk about a new spirit. Well, likely whiskey. But until next time, we'll see you then.
That does it for today's show. To read notes on this episode or learn more about our guests, please visit barrelroomchronicles.com. Want to interact with the show or have questions for our guests? Then ask them on our socials or send us an email. Or better yet, leave us a voicemail on our website. If you like what you heard, please rate and subscribe to the podcast. If you really liked it and you want to show your support, buy us a whiskey through our Ko-fi site at ko-fi.com/BRC or become an exclusive member of the Barrel Room Parlor. If you work in the whiskey or spirits industry or just have a deep passion for whiskey and want to share your spirits journey, register to be a guest through our website. Last but not least, please enjoy your spirits responsibly. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, Solange.
Barrel Room Chronicles is a production of First Reel Entertainment and is available on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Amazon, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.